What up, y'all? We're here for our weekly alchemy message. We are just taking a look at our spiritual lessons for the week and unpacking how we're approaching them, how we're approaching the work. So from the Wild Unknown archetypes, we're in the Wild Unknown alchemy deck. The first card is Iron, followed by Darkening, followed by Sap of the Moon Plant. And these cards do look a bit foreboding, but don't worry, they're actually not at all. Underneath Iron, we've got Four of Cups. I know, it's not foreboding. Underneath Darkening, we have the Death card. And underneath Sap of the Moon Plant, we have the Hermit. All right, I'm going to let you guys listen to the audio really quick and look at the spread, and then we will be right back in like 2.5 minutes. This week's spiritual lessons center around the understanding that God is our ultimate provider and protector. God is the only truly reliable source to depend on. So naturally, we're faced with threats of lack and danger, feelings of fear and vulnerability to challenge this understanding to reveal more of our faith. Will we become reactive, fighting, flying, freezing, fawning, ruminating, burning our precious light and energy until we're too depressed and downtrodden to do anything? Do we trip and self-sabotage? No. We surrender. We trust. We have learned enough now to anticipate the test, to catch the test, and to recognize our patterns. The challenge now is to embody new levels of wisdom, understanding, and self-control so that we might catch ourselves before we do the thing that triggers the pattern. As we become stronger, we gain resilience to recover when we slip. We can't do this by our own willpower alone. This is how our practice becomes our greatest strength. Through our practice of turning inward in prayer and meditation, we strengthen our connection to the Creator. Our love, our trust, our unity keeps our connection to the Creator strong and thus keeps us safe and connected to miracles. When we become reactive, getting bent out of shape, getting angry, fearful, jealous, envious, covetous, or judgmental, we disconnect ourselves from the light of the Creator and cut ourselves off from our blessings. The more we devote ourselves to the transformation of our consciousness and soul to be more like the Creator, more like Christ, the more we affect positive change in the collective as well. We tip the cosmic scales in the right direction. Pay attention to the whispers of your spirit. Pay attention to your nightly dreams. You're receiving guidance. Here we are. Okay, so the Iron card has to do with strength and reliability. Iron is what we use to build infrastructure, right? It's what we build bridges and skyscrapers with. Iron is related to Mars and war, but also strength and stability and structure. Right? And so we have this card paired with the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups is like, look at this person. They're downtrodden. They're bored. They're disgruntled. They have ennui. They're dissatisfied, right? So I feel like during this moment, there is an opportunity to really come alive and come out of ourselves and step into the shoes of our higher self and really set forth in a new direction with new excitement and momentum. But it's going to require us to pull ourselves out of this feeling of depression. We need to engage that fighting spirit to pull ourselves out of this funk, right? Because everything that's happening on earth right now, not just in, the most popular news stories, right? Like the United States right now, Israel, Palestine, Iran, Ukraine, Russia, like there's all this like intense news coming at us from everywhere. And so it's very easy to just be in this state of low level trauma response to it all. Even the images that we're shown, it's like our subconscious doesn't know that we're not there witnessing that in person. And so even just our secondhand exposure to what's going on, just knowing about it and seeing all these images is putting us into a low level trauma response. And I'm not saying that to take away from someone's experience who's actually going through it, but our nervous systems literally do this. They get triggered into a low level trauma response. I'm not trying to casualize trauma. It's a spectrum, but we're starting to understand that the nervous system reacts the way it does. And so that can cause us to freeze up. It can cause us to feel just futile in the face of enormity. It can make us feel like, what's the point, So like all of this overwhelm can cause this low level depression that we may not even realize, or it may not be so extreme that we're not taking it seriously enough to shake it off. So it's manifesting as feeling like, I want to procrastinate, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling lazy, I don't want to do anything, I just want to get like cozy under a blanket, look at the rain, or, just escape into the wild and the wilderness and enjoy the summer. I don't want to think about anything, I don't want to do anything. But this is an important moment to plant seeds for the next chapter and the life that we are building in this new timeline and this new I wish there was another word other than this next chapter, but that's just what I keep feeling like. And so we're going to have to just sort of like pull ourselves out of the temptation to become overwhelmed and emotionally downtrodden. And one way we're learning how to become more resilient is to understand, and this is one of the themes of this week, is truly and deeply understanding that the Creator is the true source of our income, right? Is the true source of our sustenance. The Creator is the source of our protection, right? It's not our alarm system. It's not, the emergency response people. Like, it's not the systems in place that we have. Those are the vehicles of our protection. But ultimately, behind that, God is the true protector. When all the physical things fail, God is the one behind that can do the miracle, that can, that we don't even know how many ways we're being protected because we can't see it. It's coming from the unseen, and there's so many things we could be protected by something that's happening behind the scenes, right? Miles away, and someone somewhere, makes a decision or says something or takes another route, or we never know all the things that factor in to what we're experiencing in front of our eyes. There's so much more happening that we're not seeing. So understanding and really settling in and surrendering and relaxing into the truth and the knowledge that source, creator, God is our true source of everything and the true source of our protection. Now, it's not to say that we should become complacent, haphazard, or foolish, right? We need to cover our bases and we need to do everything that we can on our part. But ultimately, after we do our best, Creator's in control, right? It's like my job. I've always worked in industries that are very uncertain, right? I used to be a freelancer in film and television production, so you never knew what the kind of workflow was coming in, if there would be gigs or not. And so that was where I learned the most powerful lessons about God being my source. Because sometimes I would be so scared, the rent would be due, there would be nothing in my bank account, and I didn't even know when checks would show up. And I would be terrified because there was no work. And that would send like this fiery fibromyalgia feeling throughout my whole body. And it was the worst feeling. But the moment that I would check myself and remind myself that God has always shown up for me, even if it's at the very last minute, I've never been evicted. I've never not had what I needed. Even if it seemed scary, even if it was down to the wire, I was never forsaken. And so the moment that I realized that God knew what my bills were, that God knew what the deadlines were, then literally within half an hour, but that usually that same day, I would get a cold call from out of the blue, and it would be someone booking me for a good job. So even now, I work at a restaurant, right? And it would be very easy to get obsessive about, oh, my managers, they control my income. The hosts, they control my income. The guests, they are my income. No, these are just channels. These are just portals, right? They are the moving pieces, but the creator is ultimately in control of everything, right? If the creator wants to, it doesn't matter what is planned for me in my section in the restaurant or what kind of guests that I get. The creator will make sure that I have that random guest that comes in that ends up feeling like they need to overtip me and it makes up for something else, or you just never know. So I know that the creator is in control, right? So when I can relax into that feeling, like tonight I went into the restaurant. I talked to you guys last night. I was like, every day I go to work and every day I promise that I'm not going to get bent out of shape. I'm not going to be temperamental. I'm not going to do evil eye. I'm not going to do evil tongue. And you guys, literally every day I fail. Every day I like pop off at the mouth over something. And then I get all evil eye. I'm like, oh, what's going on over there? I'm not getting my fair share. But today I did it. I made it through a shift in just like a great mood. Everything was good. I just was determined to like not compare. And it was wonderful. It was like all the great girls were at work tonight. And like one of the guys who's a good guy. And it was just like, it was a good team. I was set up with training wheels and water wings, literally, because it was the best people to be with. To like, none of them, I never have any problems with any of them. But I was so excited that I felt like I made it through the shift without any evil eye or any evil tongue. And you know what? Guess what? My guests, even though I barely had any tables tonight, they all overtipped me enough. Like one table undertipped me, so the other tables kind of made up for that. But I eked out an average wage for the night, and I was excited. It was like kind of against all odds. But it was in the knowing that I am like, creator, I know you're my source. I know you're my source of strength to give me the discipline to overcome myself. And I know that you're my provider. Now, don't get confused and think, oh, creator has to provide for me, so I'm turning away work, turning away opportunities. No, that's not what I mean, because there's been some confusion before in the past. It means that the creator is going to send you gigs and opportunities, right? And opportunities to make money and opportunities to provide for yourself. And so it comes through these vessels, these people, these husks. But what we don't want to do is put them on the pedestal thinking that they're the ones in control of my destiny, my fate, my provision, my sustenance. The creator's in control. And if you want to get specific, your yearly salary is decided during Rosh Hashanah. So that's coming up though. If you guys want to celebrate it this year, be getting ready, because the summer's winding down, and I believe it is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is in October. And then, or at the end of September this year. And then the whole month of September, end of August, like that moon cycle is all about doing the teshuvah, like returning, repenting, getting back on track, getting back in alignment. So there's time to prepare yourself to prepare. All right. So the knowledge, right? when you really get that into your bones, that it's the creator, it's the everything else is an illusion, everything else is just the delivery package, but the creator is ultimately in control, and that can give you such a peace, such a sense of rest. The Bible calls it God's rest. That is when you are, you're like aware, everything's in God's hands. If God wills me to survive, I will survive. And if God is deciding this is my last day on earth, it's going to be my last day on earth, and it's like it doesn't mean, some people hear things like that and they get complacent and they get passive with life. I grew up in an environment where I think the mistake was people thought they were waiting on the Lord, but they weren't taking action. They weren't making an effort. They were just passively waiting for everything to come to them and everything to happen without action, and they were disappointed a lot. And so I think that we are supposed to get out there and be go-getters and make an effort, but ultimately we know that the chips are going to fall where God wants them to fall, right? So not an excuse for spiritual bypassing, not an excuse for not making the physical effort in the 1%, but we understand that there's more than just the 1%, which when we talk about the 1%, we're talking about the material world, the non-material world, the spiritual world, the invisible world of the light, those realms. That's 99% of reality. There's kingdoms and realms on realms. This little material incarnation, this physicality, it's very limited. It's hardly anything of what's really going on. So that is going to get us out of the slump. It's going to give us a lot more strength and durability and resilience. And so in that knowledge and in that process, it's like we're sick of this, so sick of this feeling of this bored, dissatisfied, a little bit miserable. We're not doing it anymore. And the discomfort has gotten so much so that we're ready for the change. We're ready to make changes because we're just tired of life as it's been so far. Right? We are done with that old chapter. We're not the person that we once were. We don't want to circle around the same problems over and over again. I don't want to have the same temperamental things plaguing me. I don't want to be that same person anymore. I'm over it. So it's I've come to the point now where it's more uncomfortable to stay in that old consciousness and that old skin than it is to fully transform. So we have the darkening card here, the melanosis, and this card is about depth and readiness and maturity, right? The readiness for transformation and rebirth and renewal, and really to let that old consciousness fall away and be reborn, renewed. So let me read you guys the darkening, because I think that's the most poignant card of our group. me. So depth, readiness, churning. In alchemy, darkness is an achievement. It indicates the material has been through a significant occurrence, sometimes called an initiatory experience, that has brought it into a state of readiness for the work. So it's we're ready for the work, we're ready for the transformation. The darkness prepares us. We've moved up beyond the small talk and chit chat of the upper world and descended into the psychic layers of the soul. We admit who we are fully and bravely, and thus open ourselves to the process of transformation. When this card appears, it's not necessary to delve into what brought you here, the initiation likely by fire that has caused the embers to char, but rather it's time to heal, and darkness is the remedy. Closing your eyes is a voluntary expression of darkening. By practicing it daily, we drop into the depths and surrender. As the alchemist's eyes adjust, transformation begins. When when Kabbalah talks about the act of closing one's eyes for a prayer, it's an act of resistance. It's an act of, it's an act of restriction. It's an act of surrender. It's an act of trust, right? And we put our right hand over our eyes when we say the Shema, because we're restricting. We're saying, okay, I'm not gonna just take the light in. I'm gonna restrict, and I'm gonna trust, and I'm gonna earn the light, but I'm not gonna just take it in, right? You have to. We could talk about restriction for days, so I'm not gonna start opening that can of worms right now. But you guys know what I'm saying, or maybe you do. Okay, so. This card is linked to mortification and Pluto. If these cards appear together, it's a sure sign that things are running bleak. Time to lighten the mood and get into the sun. So we don't have those cards. Draw with charcoal or India ink. Let the depth of the pigment move you and flow and follow its lead. The only requirement is that you allow the material to express itself. So depth, right? And this transformation is bringing more depth. It's giving us more depth. It's bringing more depth out. But I love this because it talked about going into the depth of the subconscious and in the deep psyche. And here we have sap of the moon plant, which is all about going into those psychic realms, going into the deep subconscious and the unconscious and finding what's there. The Hermit card is about taking that time and making a practice of turning inward. And the Hermit is alone, but not in an isolated, lonely way, but in an intentional way. The Hermit goes off by themselves so that they can find quiet and so that they can turn inward and listen to that inner voice, listen to the inner guidance and connect with their higher self and with Holy Spirit. And through that devotion to spend time alone, listening and meditating and praying, the Hermit receives all of this enlightenment and wisdom, and ultimately they come back out of their shell, of their cocoon, so that they can share that light and wisdom with others. We want to become a vessel to receive for the sake of sharing, not for the sake of receiving for the self alone. So when we learn wisdom and when we learn how healing and everything, we learn about the healing process, we're not just doing that to make our own life more palatable and better and sufferable, but we are changing our soul so that we not only heal ourselves, but we do not bring negativity into the world or project that negativity onto others anymore. Right? And we want to learn how to heal ourselves so that we can help others heal too, right? And when we gain wisdom and it shows us how to navigate healing better or be more giving or sharing or understand the light in a deeper way, it's like we want to share that with others. We don't want to just hold it to ourselves and gatekeep the information so that we can be all powerful and get everything we want and, stomp all over everybody else in the process. Like, no, it's not what it is. It's for sharing, right? It's to help make the world a better place. We are becoming vessels that can channel the light of the Creator into the world for others. We are the Creator's hands and feet, right? Without the physical people, the spiritual world needs some vehicles to move through, right? And so we are brought into the process because that also helps us do our own correction. And it helps us purify our own negativity, and it helps us transcend our own egos, right? And embrace humility and all of those good things and good virtues. So we are delving into that subconscious. We are turning inward and we're connecting with that higher self and that spirit that's really beginning to communicate. And having done a lot of this healing work, it's like we've quieted a lot of the noise that blocked us from getting clear messages. And so now things are coming through more clearly. It's giving us the extra help that we need, and it's helping us find strength, and it's strengthening our trust in the process and in the Creator. But ultimately, we're becoming stronger, we're becoming more resilient, but it's because we're learning that the true source of strength and resilience and sustenance and protection in all ways is the Creator. And so that is what's making us stronger ultimately, and that's what's protecting us more and more. Remember the vibrational resonance, right? When we are like the Creator and we're Christ-like, then we vibrate in a resonance that is similar to the Creator. And so it helps us draw close to the Creator. The Creator can't be around misery and selfishness and evil and wickedness. It's not the Shekhinah, the Spirit of God. It can't come around that person because it doesn't have any likeness to it. There's no affinity. So we have to build affinity with the light of the Creator. Who is the Creator in human form? Jesus Christ. So we become more like, we're like, how do we become like the Creator? Well, look at Jesus. Look at Jesus's consciousness. Look at Jesus's habits and practice and how he approached the world. We take on Jesus's teachings and instructions and we put those into practice. So we take that on as a discipline. We become disciples of the Christ, right? So when we become unconditional and sharing and loving and compassionate, when we're giving and we are hopeful and we are in a positive light, then we draw close to the Creator. And when we're in unity, especially when we're in unity with one another, we draw close to the Creator. And this is like an umbilical cord. Our connection to the Creator, it sustains us. That's where we draw our blessings through. That's how we channel our blessings and connect with our blessings. We're under the wing of the Creator. However, when we become angry, temperamental, jealous, envious, judgmental of others, when we become fearful and we start getting reactive, whether that's ruminating or whether it's becoming emotionally bent out of shape, whether we start taking actions and we start trying to fix or control things and out of anxiety, like those things cut us off from our blessings, because at that moment we become the effect and not the cause. The Creator is the cause. The Creator is eternal, unwavering, unfluctuating, unconditional. But we are the effect, especially when we become emotionally bent out of shape or like we're reactive to things. We're like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, this is a terrible night at work. I'm having a horrible night. I'm making bad tips. The night goes worse. The night goes into a downward spiral, right? When we become angry, when we start talking idly about people or, putting projections or judgment on them, it cuts us off from our blessings because we are not sharing affinity with the light of the Creator at that moment. So we're no longer resonant with vibrations, we're dissonant. And then we are pulled away from the light of the Creator because we don't have affinity with the light of the Creator. So as we become more like Christ and more like the Creator, we become less reactive. And the less reactive we become more like the cause and not the effect. And that is one of the pillar categories of consciousness that help us embody the likeness of the Creator, which keeps us in that flow, which keeps us under the wing of the Creator. These are my wings. I've got my little birds, my chickadees under my wings. That's what I'm doing when I'm doing that. But yeah, so we are under the wing of the Creator in that moment, and that shields us and that protects us. All right. I hope that serves you well for the middle of the week. So we're getting out of that like low-level depression or feelings of like overwhelm, and we're pulling ourselves out of it. We're feeling more and more confident in our connection with the Creator. And we're working on maintaining that. And through that connection, through that practice, it's transforming us. We're truly transforming. And we're drawing closer to the Creator. And through that transformation, we're receiving this light and this enlightenment, right? I love this card. So beautiful. So transformation, and then like all this insight, enlightenment, revelation is coming through, that we're then coming back and sharing that out into the world. And it has a domino effect, right? So this is all really good. They looked like very foreboding cards, but it's all actually really positive. All right, y'all, that's all for tonight. Tomorrow, I'm helping my sister move over to my neighborhood. I'm excited. She's got a really cute little cottage on the cutest little streets, historical, craft style homes all down the street. So I am just so excited to have her as a neighbor, and then have her cutie patootie little house and street to go hang out at. So super excited. So I'm going to be helping her tomorrow, but we will be back together tomorrow night for our romance oracle and tarot reading for the week. Gosh, this week has gone by so fast. So crazy. We're already back at our romance reading. And until then, peace be with you. Ciao. And you guys, the 2025 prediction series is still very helpful. It's kind of more of a workshop on doing the work, the inner work for the self throughout the year, to help you keep on task. So there's lots of great material there, hours of things to do. There's a big yearly overview, and that has journal questions. There's quarterly breakdowns with journal questions to help you workshop the themes. And then there are monthly readings with journal questions that'll help you, again, workshop and stay in touch and connected with the themes and lessons through the weeks as we're navigating the challenges and the opportunities that arise. That is in my Stan store, and you can find it through the link below in the description box. And that's $10 for that whole workshop. And I think it's really, really good. And even though we're like halfway through the year, there's still a lot of good evergreen wisdom packed in. So yeah, guys, I will catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.